2025 is shaping up to be the year of the all-electric three-row SUV. So many companies are all trying to have a player in this space, and I wanted to talk about several of them, but I realized that all these different video ideas were kind of all merging together. So for one, like today, for example, Lucid has started producing the Gravity, and they have announced their EPA-rated range, and they beat their original expectations, which is quite impressive, especially if you consider that the EPA has gotten way more strict in 2024, so there's a decent chance the Gravity might surpass this, but they're clocking in 450 miles of range, which is absolutely nuts, considering that you've got like 120 cubic feet of storage on this thing. That's way more than a Tesla Model X, way more than a Rivian R1S. This is approaching Chevy Suburban levels of cargo, especially thanks to that massive frunk on the front, and now they're saying with this EPA range test that this vehicle with a 120 kilowatt hour battery pack is getting north of 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, okay? That's almost as efficient as a far lighter, far smaller Tesla Model Y. In fact, probably much more efficient if we're looking at just the dual motor options for the Model Y, despite being way bigger, having way more range, way more performance. That's just the magic of Lucid's technology at play there. There's so many cool things to talk about. I hope I get to check one out in person soon, because if I had the money, that would probably be like my wife and I's dream vehicle. She loves having more storage space. I'm really into car camping and efficiency, so that would be the best of both. The only reason my wife and I are not putting a deposit down, though, is the one thing that the Lucid Gravity compromised on. I love the look, I love the storage, I love the software, love all the efficiency there, but they compromised on the price, because holy crap, not everybody's got six figures to blow on an SUV, right? So yeah, the Gravity is a very expensive vehicle, and I mean by design. They're not shocking anybody with that. So here's hoping they come out with something pretty interesting with the Lucid Earth around the corner. But for people out there who are interested in, okay, I want an all-electric vehicle and I want 7 seats, I want lots of cargo space and storage capacity, I would say a very compelling option that recently got announced was the Hyundai Ioniq 9. Especially if you're looking for more of a legacy automaker, one where you're a bit more sure about the company's future. Some people are, of course, very skeptical of any of these EV startups, like, are they going to be around in the next few years? I think they will personally, but valid concern, and the Ioniq 9 should be much cheaper. It's built on the eGMP platform, which means it has a lot of internal structure parts that are shared with the Kia EV9, alongside the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6. It's a higher voltage architecture, and both the Lucid Gravity and the Ioniq 9 are planning on shipping with NACS natively from the beginning, but the only downside of that is all these superchargers out there are optimized for 400 volt vehicles, not 800 volt vehicles. And Tesla has said in 2025 they're going to start rolling out the V4 cabinet, which is apparently cheaper and supports up to 1,000 volts. So that should allow the Lucid Gravity and the Ioniq 9 to charge really, really fast. But at least right now, none of those cabinets are out yet. So choosing to have the NACS port natively on the vehicle, I think, is going to result in a lot of pain and frustration in the short term, but long term, like 5 to 6 years from now, I think it will probably be a very convenient world where hopefully the rest of the DC fast charging infrastructure has moved over to NACS, and at least on the Lucid Gravity, they put it in the same place as Tesla, so you can just grab the cable, whether it's a V3 or a V4 dispenser, plug it in, and you're only occupying one space. That's the weird thing about the Ioniq 9. They were all proud to have NACS natively, but they put it on the passenger side, like it's as far as possible from the driver. Don't know why they would do that, but the Ioniq 9 should be far more affordable to the masses, and also not quite compromising on range as much as the Kia EV9. That's been out for a while now. It's probably due for a refresh, but pretty much all the ways to get the EV9 under $60,000 is by compromising with the range pretty substantially. I think the base model EV9 is looking at the mid 200 mile range, which is a far cry from the Lucid Gravity's 450 mile range. And if you're looking for something a bit more interesting visually from the exterior than all of these three-row SUVs, which all kind of start to fall into the same category, Volkswagen ID Buzz is also a 7-seater three-row SUV, which has got quite a few positive reviews lately for the US launch, but definitely not as big as a Lucid Gravity, and also definitely not as much range. We're talking mid 200 mile range, and still at a pretty high price, around $60,000. Now, that's the one missing link from the Ioniq 9. They haven't announced the pricing of it yet. I would guess it's a little bit more more than an EV9, but they have confirmed that all variants of the Ioniq 9 are going to surpass 300 miles of range, which I actually think is quite reasonable, especially if you're looking for a 3-row 7-seater vehicle after 4 to 5 hours of driving, which is typically how long it takes to get, 300 miles, and you've got kids in the back seat. You're probably ready to take a break by them. They need to stretch their legs. In fact, I know a lot of people that can't even get their kids to go that long on a road trip. So 300 miles of range I think is perfectly fine. Even with some degradation baked in, people can live with that. And the Ioniq 9 was also definitely made to maximize storage capacity. The event that they recently invited a bunch of media people out to, they talked about how it has more capacity than a Rivian R1S and more capacity than a Tesla Model X, while being around the same size, so not compromising too much on the overall footprint, while still being able to fit the largest battery pack possible within the eGMP platform, now having 111 kilowatt hours in the Ioniq 9, and getting that over 300 miles of range is actually quite impressive. Pretty efficient. We're not talking Lucid Gravity levels of efficient, but also we're not talking Lucid Gravity pricing. Like, next year, Lucid says they're gonna eventually offer a Gravity variant that's under $80,000, but probably not by much, whereas the Ioniq 9, even the cheapest one, should be getting over 300 miles of range, and I would estimate that to be in the low $60,000 range. I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully they surprise us and they can undercut 60 grand, but still, I think that's really impressive considering it's from a legacy automaker. Hyundai and Kia have been crushing it lately. I see the Kia EV6 everywhere. I think a lot of people love that one. I know not everybody loves the Ioniq 6, but I'm a big fan of Hyundai at least trying to compete with the Model 3 because it feels like no one else wants to. The rest of the automotive industry is just like, more 5-seaters, more crossovers. I think it's kind of wasteful. I'm like, if you're gonna have an SUV, let's at least make it a higher occupancy vehicle so that we could justify its existence a little bit more, because if you really just need 4 to 5 seats in a vehicle, I think sedans are underrated and underappreciated. I love my Model 3, and the closest competitor we have to the Model 3 on the market right now is from Hyundai. It's a higher voltage architecture with that Ioniq 6. Just saw one today in that pearl white color, and man, I know it's not the kind of exterior everybody loves, but I like the Apple Magic Mouse, okay? I don't care if you want to just make a Magic Mouse on wheels. That sounds awesome. So as far as the legacy automakers are concerned, I think Hyundai and Kia Group are just crushing it, and I hope the Ioniq 9 impresses people, even with a few of its compromises. The frunk is definitely a huge miss on these eGMP vehicles. They're always like barely big enough to hold like a laptop, and I'm like, really? With all of your higher voltage architecture and even with rear-wheel drive variants, you couldn't make a little bit more spacious of a frunk? I don't know, maybe you need Lucid's crazy powertrain tech. I mean, look at how massive the frunk is on the Lucid Gravity, and that's with a dual motor powertrain. They're not even entertaining the idea of doing a single motor Gravity, but I would be all over that. With all of these different vehicles really heating up the market in the automotive space, I hope Tesla has a plan. You know, Elon has dropped hints that they have a higher occupancy Tesla in the works that is not the Robovan. Maybe just extending the Model Y wheelbase a little bit could make it a much more roomy 7-seater. I know technically it's a 7-seater now, but it is kind of pushing it. Probably decent for little kids, but certainly not adults. And hopefully, a few years down the road, my company at Tello Trucks will also have a much more affordable 3-row SUV option that puts the Mini back in minivan, but I don't want to reveal too much. We're focused on the pickup truck, so that's got to come out first. But what do you guys think is the best way to do an all-electric SUV that can sit 7 occupants comfortably? Do you think it's more like the Tesla Model Y X approach? Do you like what Lucid's doing with the Gravity, or are you a big fan of the Ioniq 9, kind of building the whole vehicle around the second row of seats and recycling the platform as much as possible with other vehicles to reduce cost? All of your thoughts and opinions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again, have an excellent rest of your day.